Well, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the Australian Circular Economy Conference, co-hosted by the Waste Transformation Research Hub, the Sydney Knowledge Hub here at the University of Sydney, New South Wales Circular, and the Association of Pacific Rim Universities. I'm Rupal Ismin, the Director of the Sydney Knowledge Hub here at the University of Sydney on Gadigal land. This week, we have 30 events, including research discussions in areas such as innovations in building materials and energy, knowledge exchanges on business models and supply chains, and spotlights on startups doing amazing things in this space. Much of today's program is a showcase of cutting-edge innovations. As we plan our transition to a more circular economy, we should also look for inspiration from cycles in our natural environment, as well as from practices for those who have lived more compatibly in their natural environment for thousands of years. I'd like to acknowledge and pay tribute to First Nations people, the earliest peoples to practice circular models. With that, I'd like to invite Craig Madden to welcome you to this conference. Craig? Oh, Craig, you're on mute.
Okay, sorry. Thank you, Rupal. Thanks. Pujari Gamarua, everyone. G'day, welcome. My name is Craig Madden, and I'd like to start by thanking the University of Sydney for inviting me online in these unprecedented times, I guess, to virtually welcome you to country. I'm a proud Bundjalung Gadigal man from the Eora Nation. And Gadigal land is the land on which I stand on today. Gadigal land is the land, also the land on which the university is on. Junior Gadigal, this land, this place is Gadigal. It's customary for Aboriginal people to invite guests or visitors onto our land or country. It's a custom that we've been doing for thousands of years. So as a proud Gadigal man and a representative of the Metropolitan Local Aboriginal Land Council, I'd like to welcome you all onto Gadigal land, my land, Aboriginal land. We're respecting on our Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander brothers and sisters. We're respecting on our elders, past, present, and future. We acknowledge the traditions and living cultures of our Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples of this land. To any Aboriginal brothers and sisters, if we have any brothers and sisters from the Torres Strait Islands online today, welcome. To all our non-Aboriginal brothers and sisters, a warm and sincere welcome today to Gadigal land. The Gadigal clan is one of 29 clans which make up the Eora Nation. It's a nation that's bound by 3 distinct landmarks. We have the Hawkes River to the north, the Nepean River to the west, and the Georgia River to the south. Within the boundaries of those mighty rivers lie the Eora Nation, the land of the Gadigal people, is one of the 29 clans of that nation. If we have any guests that are from across the seas today, if you're from across our great country, great state, this magnificently beautiful city on this beautiful day, welcome to Gadigal land. And when I talk about countries, our country, I speak of our Aboriginal nations full of traditions, values, stories, and dreaming that belong to our country. For thousands of years prior to the arrival of Europeans, Aboriginal clans fished and hunted and harvested food from our lands. We were self-sufficient and lived harmoniously with the land. Our resources were abundant. We knew how to manage and sustain the abundancy through practices like bush regeneration. We had no wastage. Everything we used was from the land. We had a purpose and we reused things once they served its initial purpose. Eating animal bones and then using them as spearheads for weapons or turtle shells for drinking. Our lifestyles were based on total kinship and natural environment. And that allowed us to use the environment to its maximum. It's not the same as our circular economy that we have today, I guess, but it was our own circular management that sustained our systems for thousands of years. So on behalf of the Metropolitan Local Aboriginal Land Council and its members and our Gadigal mob, please enjoy your conference today. Please stay safe in these COVID times. Once again, welcome, welcome, welcome. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Craig. I'd like to introduce Conference Chair and Director of the Waste Transformation Research Hub, Associate Professor Ali Abbas.
Thank you, Rupal, and thank you, Craig, for this lovely welcome to country. Much appreciated. And welcome all to the conference, the Australia's second conference on circular economy. Welcome to the opening session, and we are very delighted today to have the New South Wales Chief Scientist and Engineer, Professor Hugh Durrant-Whyte, with us today to deliver that keynote, and that will come in a moment, along with my colleague, Professor Kim Rasmussen, Deputy Dean of USYD Faculty of Engineering. Waste is a sorrow perspective. It's a wicked problem that is challenging many nations. In front of us here, we've got a collection of data that has shown how prosperity and the progress of nations correlates very closely with the waste generation. Australia is no exception, and this is a problem for many of the countries around the world. As they grow, as they progress, and they become more affluent, more waste is generated. With the rate of generation per person per day, we expect quite a large production of waste going forward as populations continue to grow. However, this is why we are thinking circular, to change our patterns of consumption, our patterns of resource use, to increase overall circularity currently at 9 or 10% globally, which is such a large gap. It is also to change the way we design, produce, manufacture, consume, assemble, sell, resell, and use things to minimize waste, to reduce our environmental and health impacts. But it is not just about the technical sphere. It is about people, it's about businesses, it's about jobs. It's about bringing the economy to progress. It's about economic, social, and environmental outcomes, a purpose-driven prosperity agenda. We held the first Australian Circular Economy Conference in November 2018, about 2 years ago, which was then primarily sponsored by the Office of Chief Scientist and Engineer. And the venue was regional New South Wales at Wyong. In cooperation with government, industry, international institutions, we had quite a large number of industries participating, some 70% participation rate from industry, which led to numerous projects in cooperation with the university and industry. But we learned one very important thing in that conference, that the circular economy is more than recycling. It is about design. Design that addresses all consumed products in our economy and addresses the systems and solutions, such as a new business built on circular economy principles. So we do need to also consider reuse. This second iteration of the conference, the second Australian Circular Economy Conference to be held this week, starting today, we are proud to bring this to you, has taken the message of design from the first conference, and we are going to see this design theme throughout this week in the 30 or so events that are running until Friday, the 11th of December. This year's conference is brought to you by a partnership of the following organizations: University of Sydney's Waste Transformation Research Hub, University of Sydney's Sydney Knowledge Hub, New South Wales Circular, the Association of the Pacific Rim Universities, APRU, the Waste Management Program. And I've also had the pleasure to work with dynamic colleagues, the co-chairs of the conference, Rupal Ismin from the Sydney Knowledge Hub, Lisa McLean from New South Wales Circular, and Professor Yong Sik Ok, Director of the Sustainable Waste Management Program at APRU, along with a fantastic organizing committee, Sarah Lacroix from Sydney Knowledge Hub, who's been instrumental in the organization of the conference, Sandra Margon from Faculty of Engineering, Sally Hill and Laura Carroll, New South Wales Circular, and Kumudini from APRU. But also to the many supporters and participants, particularly those who organize sessions and are chairing the sessions this week, speakers, panelists, students, and many others. I thank you one and all. Here is a snapshot of the program this week. It is a splendid program, which is all available online in the URL above at the top of the slide. It covers many circular economy topics, including design, manufacturing, construction, health, textiles, plastics, and digital circular economy, amongst others. The sessions are run in various modes. We have webinars, workshops, panels, roundtables, closed business meetings, and poster session, hackathon, and amongst other sessions. So there is something for everyone's interest. So what is circular economy? Are we all on the same page in terms of what we understand as the circular economy? The Ellen MacArthur Foundation out of the UK has a definition for the circular economy, as they have been spearheading the circular economy around the world. It is focused around designing out waste and keeping products and materials in use. We also have our own down under definitions, and here is the New South Wales EPA, for instance, its definition on the circular economy, which is very similar to the Ellen MacArthur Foundation's, and it focuses on using and keeping on using products in as much as possible, as long as possible. But also it is focused on people, businesses, and jobs. And here you can see also design is one of the key important steps in these definitions. How does the circular economy work? We generate a lot of waste in different categories: municipal solid waste, commercial and industrial waste, construction and demolition waste. And a lot of this waste goes to recycling. So that's the linear economy, if you want to think about that. The circular economy, and here is a diagram representing the circular economy based on the New South Wales EPA's definition, which I personally like very much, because it not only proposes the new circles of sharing, repairing, reselling, refurbishing, reusing, repurposing, but it also does not ignore recycling, because we still do need to deal with the front end, the design, but also need to deal with the end of pipe recycling of resources and all the existing stockpiles of waste. We have used the circular economy principles and the circular economy theme as the overarching theme in the Waste Transformation Research Hub at the University of Sydney. And we are developing this vision to define the circular pathways to sustainable business outcomes based on resource reuse through different areas such as water, wastewater, carbon, and plastics, minerals and e-waste, and so on. And I will stop there, and I would invite you to participate in the sessions throughout this week in the conference, and I look forward to speaking with many of you. And now I'd like to pass over and introduce Professor Kim Rasmussen, Deputy Dean and Associate Dean Research at the Faculty of Engineering, University of Sydney. Kim, over to you, please.
So thank you. And on behalf of the Faculty of Engineering at the University of Sydney, I'd like to extend a very warm welcome to all attendees of the second Australian Circular Economy Conference. The circular economy is becoming a key element of the broader mission of sustainability. At the national level, the 2018 National Waste Policy is now driving decision-making. At the state level, we have numerous initiatives ongoing, as we'll hear more about in the next presentation. Sustainability has become a concern to us all. It's ubiquitous at all levels of government, and it is now a pressing concern for everybody in the community. And research holds the key to addressing many of the challenging problems related to sustainability and the circular economy. At the University of Sydney, Professor Ali Abbas leads the Waste Transformation Research Hub, which has a particular focus on water, e-waste, and reprocessing biological waste products. It touches on many other research areas, including the digital sciences, which are of particular interest to the Faculty of Engineering at the moment. So this conference is timely, and I'd like to recognise the effort of Professor Ali Abbas and his team in bringing it together. I'm excited about this this conference. It has a rather non-traditional format in the way it's run and the different delivery methods, as Ali Abbas outlined a little earlier on. It's all online, except for a few workshops on Friday. It's free, that's unusual. And it has some very exciting research themes, including advancing manufacturing, construction, circular plastic, fashion, and policy and regulation, among many others. Secondly, I'd like to herewith officially open the conference. The objective of the conference is to share knowledge on the circular economy, to discuss trends in policy, in research, education, business, and industry. The conference is really about engaging in discussion, and the online way that it's being run is, of course, conducive to this in many ways. It's about generating ideas. It is about collision of thought for advancing knowledge and finding solutions to pressing issues related to sustainability and the circular economy. I hope you'll enjoy the conference, and I hope you'll find it useful. Thirdly, I'd like to call on the first speaker, Professor Hugh Durrant-Whyte, the New South Wales Chief Scientist and Engineer. Professor Hugh Durrant-Whyte has an esteemed career spanning academia, industry and government. He has received a long list of prestigious awards in recognition of his contributions to fields of robotics, automation, ICT, and the data sciences. It gives me great pleasure to invite Hugh Durrant-Whyte to give his address.
Good, thank you, Kim. Many distinguished things I've done, but none of them in circular economy, it has to be said. So look, there is an enormous amount going on in government at this point in time around both circular economy and a range of related issues. As I think some of you are aware, there is the New South Wales government 20-year waste strategy being developed, a plastics plan. There's work going on at the SAPs, the Special Activation Precincts, around development of industry. There's a lot around the net zero plan as well. And our ministers, particularly Minister Keane, has been especially vocal about the need for the New South Wales to really develop itself in this area. So this conference is both timely and important, and I think it also brings together a lot of different work that's going on across New South Wales and across the New South Wales government. So perhaps I want to start by actually mentioning some of the work that we ourselves have done in my office around the decarb strategy. So we spent a year really developing particularly new strategies around decarbonisation and the opportunities that exist in decarbonisation. And that's not at all just energy, but includes industrial processes, transport, construction, a whole range of different areas. And I recommend that any of the audience actually pick up a copy from our website, and you will see that we've actually developed these kind of infographics around different industry sectors, around the opportunities that exist in decarbonisation and indeed circular economy, and whole ways that the New South Wales government can approach these things, and really looked at basically what are the opportunities, not just in research, but in development, in application. What are the potential payoffs in different things, where the technology exists, where we need to change policy, where there are a whole range of things. And I have to say, the report has definitely driven some seed change in government, and I hope it'll do a lot more. And it ties in with a whole range of different things that have happened this year. The new electricity infrastructure report, the circular economy opportunities, which I think you'll hear a bit more about tomorrow, the net zero plan, a whole range of other sorts of things. So I think the government this year particularly has been really very proactive in not just developing policy, but also developing funding regimes and opportunities for us to really build the economy in this sector. So I think the one thing I want to emphasize perhaps in the decarb report is it's very much what's the future of this and how can we build industry around it and how can we build opportunity and innovation around it. It's not just a we must report, but how we should actually execute a report. I think the other thing that's worth mentioning, and you will hear this significantly tomorrow, is we've set up, as you'll have heard, New South Wales Circular, one of the innovation networks that my office support and fund, and Lisa, I think, will be talking to you tomorrow. And that itself has set up 6 different task forces that engage not just academia and technologists, but all the way through regulators, finance, and the whole process of actually trying to deliver outcomes for the circular economy. There is significant work going on to bring different groups together. Different task forces have already met, in fact, last week. And this is really, I hope, galvanizing the whole ecosystem in New South Wales. And I want to, at this point, thank Ali and his group for their support and their active involvement and contribution to the task force, that New South Wales Circular have been engaged in. We are very much trying to capture expertise. I think this is kind of one thing we've learned about the ecosystem is there has to be a way for us to capture expertise, for people to query where that expertise exists, to basically link people together, whether they be, again, technologists, or indeed whether they be business people and entrepreneurs and people who actually want to fund and support this kind of outcome. So the Circular Economies Network has established now a website which enables information about expertise across different types of areas, in particularly New South Wales academia, to kind of come together and be displayed and showcased, particularly for trying to engage companies and investment and so on. So please do take a look at the opportunities that might exist in those areas. The other kind of work that Circular Economy is doing, we're trying to build on, I think some of you have seen this work that's going on in Europe, where we can genuinely build a kind of better model, better map, a better display or understanding of where jobs are being created and where investment is taking place around circular economy. This is an example of what's going on in Europe, but this is very much something that we would like to develop and borrow and replicate. I always think it's important to see that, you know, borrowing something from somebody else is the easiest and first thing one should do in innovation. And also because I have to say, in this case, around jobs and investment, it's the kind of thing that really will drive government itself to invest and develop this area. So that's a very important thing that's going on. And finally is really trying to build these supply chain pieces. So we're gradually, I think, very, very early on when we were setting up New South Wales Circular, we recognized that it was not just a technology problem or indeed a customer problem or indeed a government problem, but genuinely it was about setting up the supply chains between how we connect the technology to redesign, to reprocess materials, to allow regulations which ensure that these sorts of things can be used, to actually link those also directly through to the customer. So an entire supply chain around particular types of materials. So particularly in areas like glass and textiles and a number of other areas, mapping material flows, trying to bring different parts of these processes together is kind of key to really getting the circular economy network in New South Wales underway. So it's a little bit of a call to action here. We've already started some of these supply chains. We'd love people to be involved in them. There are plenty of opportunities to develop technology, to apply technology, to build businesses and so on in each of these areas, and indeed to extend these supply chains into other areas. Although I'd like to see some of these, I think, really worked on and getting some results out there. So there is a huge amount of opportunity. I think this conference is at a very, very timely point. There's a great program, great opportunities to connect on what are really very live issues now in New South Wales. Some great sessions on the value of design, infrastructure and services, hydrogen from waste, food processing, local governments, a whole range of great initiatives. And I'm pleased to say, pleased to be a part of supporting this conference and indeed supporting the work of New South Wales Circular and indeed supporting the work of Ali and his team at the University of Sydney. Congratulations for bringing this all together. I hope it'll be a great conference and one of many, I hope, into the future. So thank you very much for your time. Everyone else is on mute.
Thank you very much, Professor Hugh, for this wonderful keynote. And yes, it is a call for action to the circular economy, to develop the circular economy. And also, I would like to remind everyone to continue to engage in this week within the different sessions. There are, as I said, quite a number of sessions in different areas and different topics that are of interest to many others. But I also would like to tell you to enjoy the conference, but also to come back to this definition of the circular economy and raise a question for you to ask yourself, what is your understanding of what circular economy is and how it works? So I'm sure that this conference will seed a lot of new ideas. You will walk away with a lot of ideas that could lead you to implement the circular economy.